You are watching and listening to the Gashouse Gang from KMOX. It's Monday. What in the world is going on here? It's 73 degrees as a high today. I love it, man.
Let's go, man.
We
Time for
run
some
this
BP.
outside.
Let's get some BP.
We should have. We should watch Wheeler
Throw
take
some
cuts.
long toss across the park here. We got a park right out here. Let's go.
You know what? You and I are in the same building. I didn't
know.
bring my glove though.
I got Tom, I've got 3 gloves in the car.
Let's go.
3 gloves, baseballs, you name it. I got it.
If you're gonna go if you're gonna go play catch in the park right around there, you got some Kevlar with you, or?
I got catcher's gear, but I don't think that's gonna help.
There we go.
All right. Okay. How to loosen it up. All right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What's going on, folks? It's great to be with you with some of my favorite people here. Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, Bernie Miklasz. I'm Tom Ackerman. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling. We're going to hear all about them in just a bit. Let's talk some baseball. We're 9 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Let's start with some newsy stuff. So yesterday, I don't know if it's news necessarily, but I got the conversation with John Mozeliak going about something that you talked about, Bernie, recently, that they don't and haven't picked a lane. And he actually acknowledged this in a way. He called it a fine line between winning. He acknowledged that they want to win. They want to be competitive. At the same time, they want to build this back to where it should be in terms of player development. So I still think there are mixed messages out there from the club. At the same time, I do understand what he's saying. It is not the easiest thing to have to for anybody to get a handle on right now. They are not going to be a 100 loss team, and they also are not going to be a 100 win team. I don't know that they know who they are. The other thing, Bernie, is that, and I'll let you respond to all of it, is that he is frustrated very clearly about the free agent market as we sit here on February 3rd. And without naming him, obviously he's talking about Alex Bregman hasn't been moved. Therefore, they're frozen into what they can do with Nolan Arenado. Clearly, they wanted to trade him. They tried to. And now they're sitting here with no moves as they get ready for spring training. Your response to all of that as I chatted with Moya.
It's a really tough situation. You know, it's not Mozeliak's fault, of course, that Scott Boras is holding yet another high-profile free agent out until spring training. Who knows how long? Scott Boras has a right to do it, and Alex Bregman has the right to make his own decision. I mean, Boras works for him, not vice versa. But yeah, it's a problem in baseball writ large. We've seen, baseball with these trends of middle class free agents, lower class free agents, having to just sit and wait because the jobs won't open up until some of the bigger pieces move on the chessboard. So it's a frustrating time. But I do think if Mo had to do it all over again, he'd be the first to tell us that he came on too strong. He was very confident of trading Arenado. He believed, and I totally believe him. At that time, he was virtually 100% sure he'd have a deal for Arenado, and then the whole Houston thing happened. I don't know whether there was something that broke down in the line of communications. I don't know whether Mo got some bad information and ran with it, but it turned out to be whoever's fault it is. It turned out to be an error because it set the expectations this high, as high as you could go, that Arenado would be traded. And so when he hasn't been traded, then Mo followed up on that in the winter warm-up saying, his priorities were 1, 2, and 3 to trade Arenado, and it still hasn't happened. It makes Mo look bad. It makes the organization look bad. But what are you going to do? I mean, Arenado's got a no-trade clause. He had every right to veto that trade. He probably thought something better was coming. And, frankly, I think I'm willing to say this. Mozeliak overestimated the trade market for Arenado, perhaps. Arenado definitely misread the trade market, the interest level in him after his age-related decline offensively last season, and also the contract. So I think it's a case of, when it comes to the Cardinals and Arenado, I think it's a case where both parties basically misread the situation. And then the third thing is now the Bregman logjam is just kind of paralyzed any movement whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm sure some people involved would change some things if they could go back in time to change some things.
Let's go around the horn on it. Matt Pauley, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Bernie's probably right, but I also leave open the possibility that there is interest on Arenado from multiple teams that just don't want to give up the hope on Bregman, and that when Bregman gets his deal, that all of a sudden an Arenado thing is going to come together fairly quickly after that. That might be true. That might not be true.
Sure.
I think we have to at least leave open that possibility. So
Sure.
the frustration for Mo has to be that this Bregman thing is taking forever because he's got to deal with Boston in his left hand and a deal with whoever else in his right hand. It's whoever doesn't get Bregman that goes down that path. I don't know if that's true, but I just keep going back to the fact that he has been so out there. Again, to Bernie's comments, he could have brought some things back at the winter meetings, and he did the 1, 2, 3 thing is to trade Arenado. Why do you say that? Why do you do that unless you don't feel like that even if you have to wait on the Bregman thing to happen, that there is going to be a deal sitting there waiting for you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that I don't even know if it's a criticism. Maybe it's just strategy that puts you where you are now. But if you wanted to eat more of the money, you probably could have moved him already.
Yeah.
I mean, like if your urgency is that high, if you just say, all right, we're going to take on half of all the money and you can have him for 3 years and $32 million, somebody's taking that. His defense alone is worth $10 million a year. So we got this balance, right? I mean, you've got 3 elements at play. You got to have another team that wants him. Nolan's got to want to go there, and you have to be willing to meet the terms. So I think if they desperately wanted to make a move tomorrow, you probably could, because it's all about how much you're going to eat and then, obviously how much you're going to get back. If you're willing to not seek too much and you're willing to eat more, you could move him tomorrow. But the team doesn't want to do that. You want to maximize this and make it the best possible deal you can.
Bernie, what about what I was saying earlier about messaging and picking a lane? Are the Cardinals still confused as to where they are? Did you believe from the beginning that they were going to strip this thing down right away? I mean, where are they in your mind in terms of being competitive and also building for the future?
Maybe it's my fault, but I interpreted their season-ending comments in the press conference that not that they were going to tear everything down. I never thought that for a minute, but they were going to be really aggressive about giving extensive opportunities to younger players or inexperienced players. I believe that was really going to be their agenda, other than, of course, doing what they had to do, long overdue at the minor league and player development level. But I thought we'd see more ambition, more of an aggressive move towards getting younger, and they will be younger, but that's not really the point. But getting younger at the major league level in terms of opportunities, and as we sit here today, and the thing of it is, I know this can change, and I know it probably will change, whether it's moving Mats to the bullpen or whatever. But as we sit here today, all 5 of their rotation spots are spoken for. As we sit here today, which means as of right now, there's not a spot for McGreevy. There wouldn't be a spot for Quinn Matthews if he's fantastic in spring training or in the first month in Memphis. Maybe they would make room for him. But the point is, they really don't have any vacancies. And even if they move Mats to the bullpen, they still don't have much by the way of vacancies. They don't have a lot of rooms available. So to me, that's contradictory. And I always get a lecture from fans saying, well, Bernie, that over the course of the season, teams need, 10, 11 starting pitchers. Yeah, I kind of know that. I've covered the sport for a while. But my point is that a couple of these guys, if not more, but at least a couple or 3 of these guys, there shouldn't have to be an injury for them to get an opportunity. They should get an opportunity because y'all said it was going to be a reset. So when I hear reset, I say, okay, this will be good. We'll see McGreevy, the minor league pitcher of the year, is within walking distance of Busch Stadium. He'll be front loaded into the season. And then, hey, who knows? Tink Hence by the All-Star break, this guy, that guy. They're going to clear the decks so they have some space for these guys. Again, I realize that everybody has to deal with injuries, and everyone does need a lot of starting pitchers. But a lot of the times, most of the time, it is injury-based. It's not a decision. It's not a decision about, well, let's keep Miklasz and continue to give him 32 starts. And let's keep Matz in the rotation. That has nothing to do with injuries. That's my point. Let's understand the distinction between the two things.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Bern. Like, look, I understand the worry about innings, but if this is actually a reset, wouldn't this be the year?
Yeah.
To be like, you know what, McGreevy's going to be in the rotation. We could have traded Matz for, whatever, probably not a lot, but for whatever. You can't cover Steven Matz with a combination of Semra Bursa and Rodri Munoz and Quinn Matthews and Tekoa Roby and Ian Bedell and Gordon Graceffo. Like, you can't cover Steven Matz with 5 guys like that. And by the way, we should find that out if those guys can't be options for the future. If we find that out now, you don't have to worry about that again next year.
Yeah, if the idea of 2025 was to find out who some of these guys are for 2026, even if you want to maybe win a little bit in the process of doing that, if that's what they have openly said, that they need to learn about guys and give guys their runway so they can figure it out, and we've talked about this over and over and over, then do it. That if that's going to be your stated goal, you got to find a way to make that happen.
Can I just throw one more thing in, Aki? I'll be brief, I promise. The one thing, and by the way, man, this is shameless self-promotion, because as soon as we wrap up the Gashouse gang, I'm going to do a video on this, because I did a lot of research on this over the weekend. The Cardinals could make this a lot easier on themselves by going with a 6-man rotation. And a 6-man rotation actually sort of, and then if there's an injury, it actually sort of becomes a 7-man rotation. And then what happens is people hear that and they gasp. Oh, no. This is the trend. This is the way it's been going. It all across the major leagues. More and more teams are going with the 6-man rotation. They may not call it that, but that's what they're going with. And the Cardinals are behind the times in this regard. And I'll throw in one more thing. Last year, for example, in fact, 2020, I throw out 2023 because that was just a big pile of stinking, burning mess in terms of their starting pitching. I throw that one out. It was just kind of like one of those years. But in 2022, when a Cardinal pitcher made a start on longer rests compared to short rest, as a group, guys who made starts on 4 days rest compared to 5, their earned run averages were better when they had the extra day. Last year, their earned run averages were better when they had the extra day. So it's not only good for the pitchers, keep them fresher, lessen the risk of injury. And when minor leaguers come up, they'll be on the schedule they're accustomed to, because minor leaguers are pitched on an entirely different schedule. So it's actually compatible to breaking in younger pitchers. And oh, by the way, your pitchers perform better with an extra day's rest. So this is not trying to reinvent baseball. This is the way baseball has been going for quite a long time now, really since the COVID season. So I just wanted to throw that in, and I'm going to be elaborating on a lot of that in this video I got coming up today on YouTube on the Bernie Show. Thank you.
Real quickly, if I can add on to that, because I've long been a proponent of, I would say I'd actually call it a 6-day rotation, not a 6-man, where you got 5 guys that go when you have a day off in the week. And if you don't have a day off in the week, you got a guy that you start in. And that way, what you do is you make sure every starting pitcher gets the same rest every single time through. So you go 6 days. Sometimes it's 5 guys. Sometimes it's 6 guys in that. But when I was in Milwaukee, the Brewers went to that the year Corbin Burns won the Cy Young. And what I saw when they went to the 6-man rotation was guys started pitching deeper into games. So there's a worry. The initial worry to what Bernie just said is going to be, well, you're using an extra spot for a pitcher on a starter and you're going to lose a guy out of the bullpen. Well, you don't need the bullpen as much when you go to that 6-day, 6-man rotation, because starters are going deeper into games.
And I had, there was one other thing on this. Like, for example, some of the veterans are set on their ways. Like I remember, Mike Matheny was kind of chicken about going to a 6-man rotation because Adam Wainwright just simply didn't want to do that. So you got to have a manager who's not afraid of players, number one, if it means doing best and what's best for the team. The other thing is, like, I wondered about, okay, what about a guy like Sonny Gray? I respect the career he's had. He's 12 years in the big leagues. Maybe he doesn't want to have extra rest. Maybe he's one of these guys you'd have to work around, where you keep him on a regular schedule, right? But I looked it up last year. He made 5 starts on 4 days rest and 19 starts on 5 days rest. So why would he object? And he pitched, he's Sonny Gray. It's not something that he would object to, because he didn't object to it last year. We pitched on 5 days rest a lot. Anyway.
I have one 30-second dissent. That means 5 or 6 fewer starts from your number one starter going to a 6-man by plan over the course of a year. I don't want my 6th best starter taking starts away from my ace. Now, I'm not saying circumstantially we don't do it.
It's a reset.
Yeah,
it's a reset.
No, you're right. You're right. That's what I'm saying.
What am I talking to John Mozeliak here on the Gashouse gang? The team said it's going to be a reset. It's either a reset or it's not.
Like I said, under circumstances, fine. But I'm not paying a guy $40 million to start 27 times instead of 32.
Well, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be able to stay in the rotation more often because he's got less of a chance for an injury. But with all due respect, I love you, Wheels. You're missing the point. No, you're missing the point, because again, I was looking at all these different rotations last year, and when they do have a true number one starter, they work around his schedule.
Right.
So it doesn't mean
it's a hybrid.
In other words, if you're smart in the dugout and you're smart in the front office, you can keep your number one guy on his normal schedule and work around it. And you don't need to go get a PhD. You don't have to be an MIT graduate to do it. Other teams do it all the time. So in the Cardinals case, you wouldn't have to be getting fewer starts from your number one guy. You don't have to do that.
No, it's great. Hybrid's great, but I also don't need to go out of my way to keep Steven Matz in a rotation.
Well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you're going to do that with McGreevy and Matthews, wonderful. Let's go.
It's the Gashouse gang. We're sponsored by Game Day Men's Health and by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, tell us about our sponsor.
First of all, I want to say one of my pleasures of doing the Gashouse gang is like Wheeler and I like to debate and argue stuff. It's good. I like it. It's good. Anyway, I love Saliga Heating and Cooling. They've been our the place we call for heating and cooling needs since 16 years, but they've been around helping St. Louis since 1927. It's an independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer, and they have that top of the line American standard industry leading equipment. But the thing you go to Saliga for is just their knowledge, their expertise, their credibility that they've built through decades and decades and decades, trustworthiness, reliability, professionalism, knowledge, all those good things. And I just can't vouch enough for them in terms of you can count on them and on all these boxes that you need checked before you feel really good about who you're having doing the work, heating and cooling your home over a number of years. We're delighted. We wouldn't have it any other way. And I'll also tell you about the Priority Club when I come back a little later here on the Gashouse gang. But for now, to see all of their services and everything they offer, go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
Bernie, thank you. It is the Gashouse gang. And we did have a deal go down, a 2-year, $35 million deal for Jack Flaherty. With the Detroit Tigers. Cardinals aren't interested in any free agent starters, period. The whole point is to open up pathways for other pitchers and definitely not spend any money on said pitchers. So, there will be opportunities. Let me jump in on this rotation discussion. There are going to be chances. It's all going to work itself out. These young guys are going to start. I mean, you're not going to have those 5 starters lasting through spring training, let alone lasting through the regular season. So I think there will be openings for some of these young pitchers. I think Hentz probably a little later down the road, but I do think Quinn and McGreevy, absolutely. I think you're going to see them sooner than later, especially McGreevy. Wheels, let me throw this one back at you. So look at the NL Central for me. And where does the Cardinals rotation? So let's just say right now, okay, Gray, Fetty, Miklasz, Palante, Matz. Where does that stack up in the division in your mind in terms of 1st through 5th? Give me kind of a ballpark as to where the strength of their rotation is within the division.
Just off the top of my head, I would say probably in the middle of the pack, depending on health for others. I mean, Pittsburgh has the most talented rotation, right? They have the best pitcher in the division, but they've got guys beyond Skeens. You've got Jared Jones, who throws 99 to 100 miles an hour. You got Mitch Keller. They've got, I think, the second best pitching prospect in baseball, Bubba Chandler, who was at AAA last year. I like their rotation as far as upside and ability. Cincinnati's is pretty good. I don't think it's great. I'm curious about Hunter Green and kind of how much further he can go getting deeper into games. He throws too many pitches, but between him and adding Brady Singer and having Nick Lodolo, if he can be healthy, there are a lot of upside, but a lot of questions on health. Cubs don't have anybody that throws hard. They got a lot of guys that should be able to get you innings. And I think Milwaukee is at the point now where we give them the benefit of the doubt. They just do it every year. They find a quality. Tobias Myers, another one, will come out of the woodwork. So I would say, I don't know if you guys agree, but I would probably put them in the same general vicinity as the Cubs and Reds, but with a little bit more certainty than the Reds have with health. But I'd rather have the Pirates starting rotation, and I would rather have Milwaukee's way of doing things and the way they develop guys.
Yeah, Matt, that Pirates rotation is pretty good. I mean, well, they have the best pitcher in the NL Central and maybe the National League in Paul Skeens.
Perhaps we'll see, his second year, but there's no reason to believe that he can't build upon what he did last year. I don't get why, because with the Pirates, the sum of the parts never is as good as it should be. That's been, watching them the last few years, because there's both from a pitching standpoint and from a position player standpoint, there's been a lot of interesting guys. I've generally liked a lot of players on the Pirates roster, but they just can't put it together. I think part of it is the fact that the organization doesn't go find those kind of key veteran pieces that they could insert. Will be with Cincinnati. It's going to be interesting because I think they've made some small moves here recently, whether it was going out and getting Taylor Rogers, they signed Wade Miley to a deal. I keep thinking that Terry Francona doesn't walk in that room without getting some assurances from the organization that they will add to the roster. So, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are the two teams that have a really good stock of young, exciting players. And the question is, which one of those organizations can do what they need to do to supplement at the big league level and make them more competitive?
Bernie, it's an interesting division. I feel like the Brewers are setting the pace for what you're supposed to do. I've always felt like the Cubs should be winning with the size of their market and the money that they have. But for whatever reason, they seem to trip over themselves. And Cincinnati intrigues me. I agree with Matt. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati's rotation is really good. The only question I would have is Lodolo, because he can't stay healthy.
Right.
I think Hunter Green turned a corner last year, but Andrew Abbott's a really good pitcher. Nobody talks about. I think the Cubs rotation actually, when you add Matthew Boyd, and again, I'm not saying that he's Sandy Koufax, but you add him to that, and Eminaga, Justin Steele, Tyone Assad. They also signed Colin Ray. And they, I was looking at that, the Cubs, the 6 starting pitchers they list under starting pitchers. I mean, the ERAs run from anywhere from 291 to like 2.5. I mean, that's a solid group. It doesn't blow you away, but it's a really solid group, 1 through 6. So I think the Cubs are better positioned starting pitching. The Reds definitely are. The Pirates are. The thing about Milwaukee is I'm already seeing some of my friends in the national media make the same mistake that we've all made. You look at the Brewers and it's like, well, geez, they haven't really done that much. Boy, I don't know. I just look and boy, they need this and they need that, and boy, and then the Brewers always find what they need. So when are we ever going to learn? Me too, all of us. When are we ever going to learn? But as far as like all around clubs, it's kind of tough for me right now to take a look at it. I mean, if I had to say who's going to win the division or pick the teams in order right now, subject to additional roster moves, I would have Cubs, Reds, Brewers, Cardinals, and Pirates in that order. But again, a lot of things can change. And as we've seen many times just in St. Louis alone, there have been a lot of Cardinals teams that weren't predicted to do very well, did much better than expected.
The Gashouse Gang from KMOX with Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That is the way to get it right onto your device. Subscribe to KMOX Sports at YouTube, and boom, every single day, Monday through Friday, the Gashouse Gang will be there for you at noon. And while you're at it, subscribe to the Bernie Show. Bernie always putting out great videos on YouTube, which really is the wave of the future, to be honest with you, of television. It has been for a while. But now people are catching on and they are watching this and listening to it on replay. We appreciate it very much. Let me address something that also went down today, actually the last couple of days. So there was a story in the Post-Dispatch in which Jim Edmonds was, as reported by Dan Caesar, was not going to come back as a broadcaster for the Cardinals. And then our friends Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, Martin Kilcoyne did an interview with Jimmy, a Cardinals Hall of Famer, this morning, where he kind of aired out some frustrations. And I think one of the things that really stuck with a lot of people was talking about how he doesn't feel respected or doesn't feel like he's a part of it anymore. Felt kind of empty when it came to the Cardinals. And so he's moved part-time to Tennessee and is kind of removing himself from baseball, is what I got out of the interview. I want to say this before we get into anything else. I loved working with Jim Edmonds. I mean, my first game on TV, he treated me like a great teammate, professional, and I felt very comfortable with him and absolutely loved every second working with him. By the way, I loved covering him too, because you just never know what was going to happen from day to day. And what has happened this time, I think, is Jimmy being Jimmy. I mean, he's going to wear his heart on his sleeve, and Kevin, he's going to say what he wants to say. I think that if you're a Cardinals fan, you take a step back and you understand that it's Jim Edmonds airing out of frustration, not the entire collection of Cardinals alumni necessarily, because there are a lot of things at play here. You listened to it. I listened to it. I know, Matt, you did as well. Mm-hmm. Just give me your thoughts, if you would, Kevin, on what Jimmy had to say today.
A couple things. I mean, one, we've talked about the dysfunction with the team and why it is where it is now, right? I mean, maybe not in such direct terms as it would relate to a player in his position, right? A former player in his position. But, I mean, it's been very clear that things have gone off the rails, and we've all been talking about this now for a couple of years. So I don't find that part to be very new. I find it interesting that Jimmy was fast to say he loves the DeWitts, has all the respect in the world for Mo, loves Ollie, but then goes on to talk about everything's wrong. I mean, those are the guys in charge, man. I mean, it's if it's not those guys, it's nothing else. Unless it's about not getting along with the players. Maybe previous players were more receptive to input, and maybe they're not now. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing, because if you love the owner and the president and the manager, then those complaints are about those guys, or at least about the things that are happening. But I mean, I don't know his experience. Maybe it is weird behind the scenes since COVID. I can't speak to that. I will say the part that bothered me is Jimmy going off on people that were critical of him, like fans, people that are, he's talking about the internet community and criticizing him and talking about, as he put it, this is a paraphrase, but as he put it, a bunch of fat guys that never played sports before. Well, I'll tell you this, I am a fat guy. And I didn't play professional baseball, but I've been in broadcasting for 30 years. And I can say this, and I'm sorry, Tom, I know you love Jimmy. He's been in broadcasting 8 years and never got better. Never got better. And I don't know why. Maybe, I mean, he's got a busy life. He's got a lot going on. Just don't be bringing other people into this. Don't be bringing fans into it because they have an opinion about the job that you're doing. That's not cool. And if we're going to go there, well, then I'm going to ask, why didn't you get better for 8 years? Why are you the same guy now that you were in 2016 in a booth? I mean, whatever he said about the team is separate. I don't know that. He's in it. I'm not. Whatever's going on there, I don't know. But don't bring fans into it and start being nasty to people because you're unhappy with things.
The irony I found in all of it is, sometimes the Cardinals take criticism for being too nostalgic when Matt Carpenter gets brought back, when Lance Lynn gets brought back. And then his complaints was basically that they're not being nostalgic enough, that they don't involve the Hall of Famers and the people don't feel like they're as welcome around the team. And I know it's not apples to apples here. But I think the team is nostalgic in many ways. And sometimes it is to the detriment of the team in the way that nostalgia is in there. There was comment about Nolan Arenado wanted Mark McGwire to come in as a special instructor in spring training, and the Cardinals didn't want that. But then he also said that he didn't really talk to that many other Hall of Famers about the feeling of the door being closed off to him. It just felt like there was a lot of sort of conflicting things when he was going through it, that at times it felt like he was trying to talk for all of the alumni, and at other times he was just talking for himself. I think it's a little bit sad. He's he is a great Cardinal who has spent, and the organization has given so much to him, and he has given so much to the organization. So as somebody who loves the Cardinals, the last thing I want to see is there be any type of rift between the team and somebody who is so important to the history of the team. So that bugs me a little bit. I also, most importantly, we're at a point right now with this team that anytime anything that's even in the like zip coded negative is said about it, people are going to glom onto it and make it bigger than it is. And I think that is a little bit what's happening here. People are reacting to this like it was some sort of huge breaking news and it's the biggest thing in this world. And you see, we told you the DeWitts need to sell because Jim Edmonds said this morning. Like, no, it's not as bad as these social media folks are making it out.
Oh, there's no doubt. And Bernie, it is red meat for
Yeah.
anybody who's going to be critical or negative about the Cardinals. But it also, to be honest with you, Bern, I mean, I wanted to bring it up because I know it's going to blow up to be some big story. So we should probably do what we do, which is put it in perspective for everybody. Your thoughts?
Well, Jim Edmonds is a really unique person. One of the more unique guys I've ever covered in sports, any sports. And I've covered a lot of championship winning teams in multiple sports. Because he sort of marches to his own beat, which is cool because I like his personality. I like the fact that he's not kind of a company man. He's not kind of a guy that just feels like he's got to do what everyone else does to fit in. He's always kind of gone his own way. And I don't mean that, people are going to like, some people take that as like, I'm not criticizing. I'm saying it's one of the things I find endearing about him. But I also know that Jimmy likes to sort of have it both ways. And I'll give you an example. He had an injury plague. Listen, Jim Edmonds loved being part of the Cardinals. He loved winning a World Series. He loved what he did in 2004 to get them to the World Series. I also know that he and La Russa just were constantly going at it, and La Russa often wondered, like, why can't they get along and this and that and this and that. And Jimmy, if I could only do this, Jimmy, if I could only make him see the light on this. But Jimmy follows Jimmy's own drumbeat. And it doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just different. But I do know this, like when Jim Edmonds, after they won the World Series, in the news conference after the World Series, he said something to the effect like, Tony La Russa has been like a father to me. This never would have happened. I would have never had the career without Tony La Russa pushing me all the time. And I told La Russa about that quote, and La Russa almost got teary-eyed because he was like, "You're kidding me." I said, "Yeah, no, it's what he said." So Jim Edmonds gets it. Mm-hmm. Like he gets it ultimately, but he's kind of a bit of a maverick and a rebel, and he likes to push authority. But he also comes around to understand it. So that's my point. And so whatever grievances he has now, I don't know that I would take them with a grain of salt because we wonder about some of the things. But it seemed to me it seemed to me like a lot of it was. He's got grievances he didn't like the way his broadcast career went here, and so he's lashing out a little bit. And I guess that's understandable, but I think all the outrage farmers on Twitter and X, they just kind of like need to recognize it for what it is. I've got no problems with him criticizing the team. He should speak openly. Yep. But I thought a lot of it was like broadcast career grievances. And let me one other thing, and I'll shut up because I told you this, guys, in a text message. I said, this whole thing about culture, okay, great. Jim Edmonds was a huge part of the Cardinals culture, but in 2007, he was hurt all the time. So he went to La Russa in the offseason. He said, listen, Tony, I think I'm going to be fine physically. I need to know I'm going to be your starting center fielder, and I'm going to play a lot. And La Russa said, I can't guarantee that because I don't know where you are in terms of injuries. I don't know if you're going to be healthy. I can't promise you that. Edmonds, well, he would deny it now, but Edmonds really took offense to that and then went to Mozeliak and say, just trade me. I want out of here. So, Mozeliak said, okay, if that's what you want, you've done so much for us. We'll try to trade you. And they traded him to San Diego for some third baseman who was in Double-A. I think his name was Freeze, maybe. Or I must be mistaken because what I read on the interwebs is John Mozeliak's never made a move to help the Cardinals. It was all Walt Jocketty. Okay, whatever. Matt Holliday just walked here on his own. Anyway, So, it's like, well, you're in this culture and with the manager you love and an organization that wins and wins and wins and wins. But you wanted out of that because you personally, you're in your own interest. You weren't guaranteed what you wanted to be guaranteed. Amazingly, because the manager is so committed to winning, he didn't feel he could be honest with you and guarantee the playing time you wanted. So your first reaction is to, I want out. I want out. So you leave that culture behind. And then instead of like enjoying the fact you had all those years as a Cardinal, and later on, he absolutely has embraced that. In 2008, I'll never forget a Friday game at Wrigley Field, he hits a bomb. He's playing for the Cubs then because he asked out of San Diego too. And he hits a bomb on a Friday afternoon and he stares at it. He does one of those things. And then he flips the bat towards the Cardinals dugout. And so I'm like, well, wait a minute, dude. You said you wanted to be traded. You can't have it both ways. So what? Now they're the bad guys because they did what you told them to do? That's what I mean. In Jimmy's world, the head wires go in a lot of like 1,000 different directions, and you just got to kind of roll with it. That's why I'm kind of laughing at all these people just going nuts over this, like this is some big sensational scandal. It's Jimmy Edmonds, man. Go with the flow. You never know what he's going to say. You never know what he's going to think from one day to the next. That's one of the things I love about him. But let's all understand that that's Jimmy, man. That's Jimmy. It just quit having heart attacks over everything that's even remotely critical of the Cardinals. Anyway.
The Gashouse game
was that good?
is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, tell us about our great sponsor, Saliga.
Well, Saliga Heating and Cooling is taking good care of the Miklasz family for 16 years. All kinds of jams, both major, minor, or questions where we're like, oh, man, we're probably going to need a new boiler, things like that. And they come out and they take a look. No, you're in good shape. This thing will go another 2-3 years. You're a member of our Priority Club, which is a maintenance program for your equipment. So listen, as usual, we'll be out a couple times a year to check. And when it gets to the point where we really think you need a new boiler, we'll tell you that. But for now, don't worry about it. Everything's looking good. So that's how they roll. I mean, they saved us another 2 or 3 years on the life of that boiler where we would have easily just said, okay, well, let's get a new boiler. They didn't have to say a word. They said, no. You don't have to spend that money now. So that's an example of their integrity and their professionalism in their class. And why should I be surprised? Because they've been doing this for St. Louis since 1927, the same family, 4 generations of Saligas. So I told you about that Priority Club. Take a look at it at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. But basically, it extends the life of your equipment if they come out and check your equipment a couple times a year, which means you'll save money, as we did, because it extends the life of the equipment you have. You also know that everything's safe and sound and working great before the hot weather in the summer and the real cold weather in the winter. So you can have that peace of mind. But find out more about that. And don't forget, financing options are available subject to credit approval. But you can find out about the Priority Club. There's some other perks too. You go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Phone number is there as well, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
Bernie, thank you. As we wrap here, I'll just say that the Cardinals family is a family, and you're going to have family members say things from time to time, and in our families, in our KMOX family, and the Cardinals family, you're still part of the family, and you're loved, and it all works itself out and comes back together. I know that, and I know that we're going to have a big week. I mean, we're a week away from Matt Pauley setting up shop in Jupiter, Florida. 1 week from today, baby. So, Matt, I'll have the Coaches Show tonight from Westport Social with Rebecca Tillett, the SLU Coaches Show. You're going to have right before that Sports Open Line. What do you have tonight?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of Cardinals talk for sure today, a lot of stuff that we've gotten into. I want to dive in more to what Mo said to you yesterday on Sports on Sunday Morning, Tom. So we're gonna get into that and just continue. I hate that we're talking about Nolan Arenado every day, but unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at with this team.
I know I was having Arenado fatigue, but I'm back. I'm more I'm energized here because I feel like we're getting a little bit closer. Bernie, you said you're gonna post something here pretty shortly.
Yeah, I'm talking about the benefits of a 6-man rotation, and I backed it up with a lot of research over the weekend. So things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. I may have another one later on. But with the Arenado thing, I'm almost to the point. It's like, well, you know what? They're probably a better team with him back. So what the heck? I don't care. If they want him back,
Not the end
they
of the
want him
world,
back.
right?
Right, exactly.
Guy's a hell of a player. And Kevin actually, coincidentally, is going to be posting a video on the benefits of a 5-man rotation.
My man.
You'll be on the DGS a little bit later, Kevin, coming up here soon.
Yep. And Bernie's going to join us today, too. So we'll have a lot more fun coming up.
Awesome. For Kevin, for Matt, for Bernie, I'm Tom Ackerman, Game Day Men's Health, Saliga Heating and Cooling. Thanks for listening, watching. We will see you tomorrow.